This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, so very warm welcome to the next session on SAP Cloud Platform Integration Suite. My name is Sam. So let me just quickly discuss what we have learned in the last session, and from there only we'll just take it forward. Okay, so I think we have just covered quite a few of the steps in our journey of learning SAP Cloud Integration Suite. Okay, so first we started with understanding what is the scope, what is the highlight of this course. Then we moved on to different scenarios. What are different SAP's intelligent use cases, where different solutions are required, where we need to have a different integration requirement. Okay, after we started with the very basic of point to point api.sap.com, then we went into your BTP. Okay, how does your user gets created, what is the global account, what is the sub account, entitlements, quota, applications. Okay, so we have just covered quite a bit in our last few of the sessions. So just one quick thing, I'm sure there are new people who have joined the sessions. Guys, just a humble request to you, whatever we have already completed, just go through it. In case if you have any kind of a question, I'm there to support you out. Okay, so might be in today's session also there are chances that you are not able to rate it out. So guys, that's absolutely okay. I will be giving you time in this week. Okay, might be some additional time, so we can just definitely quickly cover it out. So again, just a quick things. So again, when we started going through the system, we talked about what exactly is the business process model notation based on our iFlows. Then we talked about, okay, what are the different symbols and what they talk about. We developed then our first integration flow. Okay, here we simulated request from outside SOAP UI and pushed our message to CPI. We started going through adapters. I think first we have looked only about SOAP. Going forward, we are going to explore some other adapters too. Then we just talked about the roles also, ESB messaging send, and how your message monitoring and manage integration content is important. What is the concept of endpoint? We discussed about monitoring. We discussed about content modifier. How does your content modifier actually work? What are the different properties of it? What is the difference between your header and a property? Then we started discussing about your simple language expressions. We talked about versions, number range, how to simulate a message into your CPI, what exactly is the strategy for cloud integration suite, use cases, what is the hybrid use cases. We talked about capabilities, connectivities, scheduling jobs in CPI, how does the concept of a timer works out. We discussed in our last session about router, and then we started discussing about your exception handling also into the CPI, but we didn't get a chance to look in detail into our SAP CPI. So today again we will just start with exception handling, then maybe we'll touch base on groovy script, and then I'll just move on to the architecture part or different kind of functionalities. Again, I think there was a quick question for the certification and how to tackle that particular part. So Sumit, certification we do have a plan for the next week. Okay, so because by the time we have few of the topics covered, so next Sunday we would be discussing about how to tackle or how to actually pass out your cloud integration suite certificate. Okay, so one quick thing, guys who are new, I have just mailed you the setup of trial account. Please make sure that you go through the steps. We have already video on this part, how to set up a trial account, because myself have just gone through all the steps in the system, how to do that bit. Okay, so just go through it. In case if there's a question, then I'm there. But you have make sure that you go through this document and just give it a shot. Okay, perfect. So now let me quickly go into the system. So any questions before we start? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is the integration system we are using it out for our practice. So this is the package last time we have created with, which is your ZX package for your custom integration flow. So in our last message, let me quickly go on to our first integration flow. Okay, I think we were working on this particular part, this particular rifle as such. Let me just go inside it. Once we just step into this particular rifle, you will see we have on top the palette. I think I've just last time also focused much on this palette because this gives you the capabilities how you can just design your integration flow using this different kind of enterprise integration patterns. So we have started seeing few of the options. Now we have seen your events, we have seen your content modifier, routers, okay, and how to actually receive the message from the outside to the inside. So this is what we have seen it. Now I think our next case was about exception handling. I'm sure if I have just copied this and given a name exception H, let me just look into it. What was about this? Okay, perfect. So now I think in our last session, if you look at, we were sending a message and we was able to pass through all the steps. We were able to route through router, and then we were able to we were able to get a desired outcome. Now, but what happened is now we need to look at now, let's say in case if there are any kind of exceptions or error message, how do we actually tackle into the CPI bit? So in this particular case, I have taken this example. So now you know in a content modifier message body, we can just create our tag. I'm using a simple language expression to read a header variable, which using header dot order number. And for a property variable, it is your dollar, your curly braces, left bracket, then you have a property dot your variable name. Now in this case, what I have done is on purposely, I have removed the right flower bracket here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to save this particular iflow and I'm going to click on deploy. Okay, so once we deploy this particular message and I'm going to send a request from outside into the CPI, now we'll have some kind of error message. So just want to understand how many of you can actually understand that particular message. Okay, because sometimes the error message what we receive in SAP CPI is not that readable. Okay, so that's very important part. So now, if you're for the first time, once you make any kind of a change, you need to deploy your iFlow. So we have already clicked on deploy, so this message is going to be deployed. Last time someone asked me a very good question that Sam, why we cannot just stop it here only while validating it out. Guys, again, this is not some kind of your application programming where you have some kind of a compiler or an editor where you actually write your message and on a runtime it can actually give you this kind of error message. So again, this is kind of a graphical notation. Okay, so once we try to run on the VM, and when actually we execute a message on that particular node, it gives that kind of error. But I think what question you asked was very valid. So now once we deploy a message, this is your operate or monitor integration process node. Here, if I just click onto this part, so again, I think we have seen few of the tabs. We have seen monitor message, manage integration content, and we have just talked about last time on the number range part here. So in this, now we'll just wait for our message to get deployed. So let me just click on error message. What are those error messages? Okay, it is not ours. So I think our is deployed. I think this is the one. I think this time it's very quick. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take an end path. I'm going to enable a trace here. Okay, and then I'm just going to click on the monitor message processing. Trace, we enable it so that we can actually see how or where message goes for a toss. So again, trace is some kind of a detailed view of your message processing. Let me just click on monitor message processing as such. So now here, again, I'm going to use a SOAP. So we are using the SOAP UI tools to simulate a request into the CPI. So now again, in case you have to send my request, so again we do have a different kind of WSDL with us. So what I can just quickly do is I am just going to click on the request here. I'm just going, I'm going to give the endpoint. Okay, so might be I can just keep this detail same. I already have the credentials here. Let me just make sure the credentials are correct. So now for me, I think it's a very easy thing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to submit my request. So once I do submit from here, okay, now important part. So now we have error. We know that particular part. But now just I think it's all about how seriously or carefully we look at the message. Now if you look at here, we have the error message is in the fault code. So let me just take a quick snipping tool here. Might be I'll just do one thing. I'll just show you once it gets once we use exception handling and what kind of a difference it makes. Okay, so this is the case. Now we are having a message. So we do understand that. So here, if you just scroll onto the right side, it will just give you some kind of a message processing log ID, and it will just give you some kind of your tenant URL where you can actually see this particular message fail. So here, that's fine. So we have our error in fault. I'll quickly go onto my integration system. I'll refresh here. You will see an error message. I'm sure, as I told you last time also, so SAP Cloud Integration, okay, is built on your framework called Apache Camel framework. Again, your underlying framework is different. SAP is using and building on top of it. So again, sometimes what happens is when you are using some kind of framework behind the scenes, you don't have that kind of control on the messages. Okay. So now, last time I also asked, how many of you are able to actually relate what can be an error message, what can be an reason for having this kind of error message? I'm sure last time I also asked, I think people said, yes, I'm it's not able to relate it out. Because yes, now let's say if I'm just talking from a functional perspective, might be a developer he can make it out. Okay, might be the reason that they are actually coding it out, they know where this kind of issue comes. Okay. But for others, now because POPI or if I just talk about CPI, it's more kind of a functional topic because there is only 15 to 20% coding required, mostly in the case of your groovy script. Now that's not the case. Okay, here it's minimum. Okay, and this kind of error message you will not be able to actually relate it out. Definitely, what better way is your trace. Okay, now if I go here onto this. Trace mode. So now trace mode is where it will actually depict you how the message has flowed into the system, okay, and where it exactly it has gone for a toss. Now, beauty about SAP CPIs cannot just fail at multiple places. Okay, so you will have only one place while going or while passing that box. This has gone for a toss. So I see that part here at this step. So this has gone for a red. Now the good part is if you are doing some kind of debugging, so might be you can just quickly go at here. Okay, so you quickly go here and what will happen is you can just come here and look at the different kind of a steps. Might be it's for the content modifier, might be some other steps. Challenge would be in case of your groovy script. So now let's say if you have some kind of a message going inside a groovy script and it goes for a toss, might be then you will not be able to relate out what has gone wrong. But I'll just tell you to work around for that kind of things too, how to actually fix that kind of issues. So now here if I click again onto your show or your stop error messages, again it shows the similar thing. Exception occurred during execution on the exchange ID, cosk org dot apache dot camel dot language dot simple type simple parser exception. Okay, so this error message what we are seeing is currently not readable. Okay, so they are not readable. And now let's say in case if you want to have some kind of exception handling, which can actually contain this error message and gives more kind of a meaningful messages, how in CPI, how to take that particular part. Okay. So for that particular thing, we have SAP Cloud Integration has provided the functionality of exception handling in CPI. The good part is with your exception handling, there are some kind of a simple language expressions which are also provided so that we can use predefined variables to predetermine few things. So now, in case if I'm just talking about exception handling more from the technical perspective, so this is the process of responding to the occurrence during your message failure or message kind of an exception. So what exactly happens once we use exception handling into our integration flow? So this will actually save the current state of execution in a predefined place and switch the execution to a specific routine, which is our exception sub-processes. So exception can occur during any of the message processing steps. So we'll just talk about that. There can be your mapping errors, there can be context routing error, there are different kind of errors, and it's very important to see what are different error message can come and who is going to actually be aware about it. Okay, so there are two kind of. There was one scenario where there was issue while connecting to a third-party services. So in that particular case, the use case was that I want to throw a message or an email notification to a specific system admin. And in case if there is any error on the mapping part or on any kind of uh, component which we were using while developing your integration flow, then there is CPI admin team which should be notified about that part. So I'll just talk about all the things. So let me just look at first basic thing. Okay. So now let's say if I just go back, okay, I'll go quickly back to my package. There are different kind of shortcuts for navigating between different options. So now I'll just go here on this iFlow. I'll quickly click on edit. So now what exception sub process I'm talking about, that is placed under your the process tab or this process palette option. So I can just quickly click on exceptions of process and I'll just try to place it here. Okay, so this is my exceptions of process. So if I just click on that particular in this option below, you will see just a general tab. So there is a nothing. Okay, it's just a name of your exceptions of process. That's it. Now again, every time I just say anytime if there is anything new which you are seeing on your screen, the best part is click on this help option. It will just open a quickly tab for you, which will talk about what exactly this exceptions are processed to. Okay, rather than just going through all the part, it's always good to see what we have here in the exceptions of process. It will just directly take you there. Let me just quickly do one thing. Let me just try to minimize it here. I'll just come back again on the screen. So now what will happen is if I click on again save, if I quick again deploy the message, so let's wait for it to quickly deploy it out. So we'll just wait. So now we know the total count is 31, 27 are green, 3 are red. So there is one definitely going in processing. Let's wait for that part. I was a bit surprised. I think last time it got very quickly deployed. Okay, so now you see my message is deployed. I can just quickly go here. So once your message deployed, you can just see all the details, which is ID, which is the package, who is deployed, and yeah, in case if you want to undeploy it also. Now again, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly enable a trace because there would be something surprising you see here. From here only, I'll just go to your monitor message processing. Okay, so now again, I'm just going to make a change in the order ID, just a small change. And now what I'm going to do is I'm again going to send a request onto the same endpoint. So once I just click on that particular part, okay, so now it worked out. Okay, so now I'll tell you what exactly happened in the story. So now let me just quickly refresh it. You will see the message has been completed. So I'm sure everyone would be like, Sam, how come there was an issue with my iFlow and it is showing completed? So I'll just talk about this behavior too. So again, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly go on to the trace part here. Okay. So now you will see what actually happens is in my iFlow, if I go onto the trace mode, so this is gone for a toss, but what happens is we have placed an exception handling. So till this particular state, what was the message? As I mentioned you, it will save the current state of execution and it will pass to that sub process, which is my exception sub process. So whatever the message was here, it directly went to this exception sub process, due to which I was able to see that particular message, which is my 10234 service now 25400 USD and your this part. Okay, but might be some people say, Sam, I don't agree. I don't agree. This is not, it should work out. So to play around with this option, what we can do is, or to see if I'm really saying correct or not, I can just go directly to my artifact in case if I want to edit. So here we have this option of navigate to artifact editor. I'll click on this particular bit here. I'll quickly click on edit. Now the beauty is, again, I'll be able to put some kind of a logic. Now let's say, in case if I want to put any kind of a component, okay, I can just do that particular part. So now let's say if I just put a content modifier, I can do that particular part. Okay, and then here in the message body, I can say, so I'll just gonna write, okay. So now what I've done is, in case if I'm correct that it saves the last state of execution and it passed through it, now I'll place a content modifier in my my exception process, and I'll overriding with this particular message body text, okay, which says this is going through exceptions of process. Then we'll be able to actually validate this part out. I'm gonna quickly click on save again. I'm gonna deploy this iFlow. So let's just wait for it to deploy again. Yeah, product deployment is taking a lot of time. But guys, by the time I think this is getting executed, how many of you think this is a right behavior? Any one of you? Because now my message has in monitoring, if I just look at my message, it's completed. But if I go on to the trace mode, okay, so this message is already in the error part. So how many of you think this is correct? How many of you think this is not? Any one of you?
I see one issue, like actually this sub process is not connected, like all other parts are connected, but this is not connected with any of the things. So how this works?
Okay, I'll come to that part. I'll come to that part. Okay. So now guys, what I have done is in my iFlow, so I have just placed a content modifier just to showcase you that it's actually overrides the current state of execution, what was passed to that exception sub process. So I'm gonna again quickly submit the message and you will see whatever the message body we have passed. So this is showing here. So this is going through your exception sub process. So again, I refresh here. If you just look at, if I go to your trace mode, so again, you will see at this particular step, if I want to see what was the payload, if I go to the message content, now I'm able to validate that part out, that what at before a step where where it has failed, it's going to take that particular payload and it's going to pass through that exception sub process. Now here we have override with our message body text. So that is the reason it is going to give me that part here. Okay, so now earlier what we were getting it out, the error fault code. So currently that has been taken care by the help of your exception sub process. Now again, there is a lot to learn here in the exception sub process, because if you go on more the company where there are like stronger and stronger processes, so they want to make a meaning out of everything. Okay, now let me go back again to the navigate to artifact editor here. So now just to first answer your question, guys, we don't have to do anything. So now whatever the block or piece of a block where you put the exception sub process, anywhere if it failed at first step or it failed at this step, this exception sub process is going to be called. Okay, as simple as that. Now let's say if it passed through the router and it failed here, so what was my payload at the last step, okay, it is going to pass the exception sub process. So we don't have to do anything. I don't have to relate it. So by framework only, if you drop an exception sub process, this will get connected. Okay, so that's one part. Now you can just do a lot of things here. Okay, so when I say you can just do a lot of things, what do I mean by that part? So now let's say what happens is, in your case, your company says if there is any kind of error message, because we have done exception handling, it's like you're catching that exception. So whatever the message we see, the completed message is correct logically. Okay, because that's the purpose of putting your exception sub process, just to contain the error message and give something meaningful. So now if we know that this block is going to be executed, might be what I want to do here, which is a most general use case, is that I want to inform my admin about this error messages. Okay, so now for that particular part, you can do. Um, okay, I haven't talked about this adapter. Might be I'll just talk later. Okay, so might be what I can do here is, in this particular case, I'm just going to put a send. I'm going to connect to the receiver, and I might use a mail adapter. So I'll just talk about later also this mail adapter, how your mail adapter works. I'm just gonna select a mail adapter. Okay, and here in the mail adapter, I'm going to do all the configuration. I'll just talk about this in detail, how what is the address and how this all the things needs to be filled in. So using this particular mail adapter, what I'm gonna do here is I'm just going to tell from and to, okay, who is supposed to be receiving these messages, and here I'm going to actually put my complete body of message. Okay, I can say hello, hi, there is an issue with iflow name. I can save it somewhere in the local variable. There is an iflow name with the order id, this has been in exception, kindly look into it, dear team. So all these kind of scenarios are pretty much standard possible. Okay, so you don't have to do anything here. Now, I'm sure, as I told you it at initial steps, I told you at the initial steps that SAP provides some kind of a predefined your simple language expressions. Okay. So again, let me just go back to that simple language expressions slide. Okay. So this is what I've explained in my last session. So this is a notation of my simple language expression, which is your dollar and your flower brackets. Now here, for your exception handling also, we have some kind of a predefined variable. Okay. So what are those? So if I go here, let me just remove this part. So this is a predefined, so you don't have to do anything. So you have to use dollar, again your flower brackets, exception dot message. Okay, so this is one of the variable which is predefined, and there is one more variable which is defined, which is your dollar exception dot stack trace. Okay, so these are the predefined simple language expressions variable which I can actually place here in my content modifier. So now let's, in case if there is any error message, because I'm sure if it's going through acceptance process, so there is some kind of error which has happened into my iflow. Now we'll just look at if we have this kind of your scenario. If I put the simple language expression, what would be the output of it? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this variable. I'm just going to quickly save, and I'm just going to quickly deploy this part out. Now the beauty is SAP has provided so many predefined variables. Okay, I think it's all about how we start using it out. There are simple language expressions which are there for might be your HTTP services. Anytime if we are calling it, we have related to messages, we have related to your exceptions, we have related to your data store. So we have so many simple language expression placed. So we'll just look at how many of we get in scenario. We'll just take a note of it and we'll just try to place in this particular slide. Okay, so now let me again quickly go back to this operate or monitor integration process settings. Okay, so now again, I'm gonna wait for my iFlow to get deployed, and once it's deployed, we are going to again test it out.
I have a question. Meanwhile, can I?
Yeah, please go
Hello.
ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
please go ahead,
yes.
please.
Yeah, in case of this mail sending option, okay.
Mhm.
So, is it taken care in the backend, like in message server, message server or something, or is it taken at CPI level, like taken care of CPI level? Yeah.
No, sorry, I am not able to get you out.
Yeah. The mail sending you have shown, right? Like in
Correct,
case of
correct, correct,
error
correct,
message.
correct,
So
correct.
is it taken care by CPI or at the back end like SOST or somewhere?
No, it will, everything
And
will be taken care in your CPA only. Don't worry about that particular part.
okay,
Okay.
okay,
Actually, I don't want to go today because again, we have a concept on the connectivity part. So again, SAP has provided this particular functionality. We can just connect with different kind of outside what might be in case if I want to connect with SMTP, okay, FTP, SSH, IM3, POP3, AMQP, and Kafka. Okay, so we'll be able going forwards. First, I'll talk about this connectivity. Then we'll bring the mail adapter and the concept, and then I'll show you how to end to end it works out. Actually, how the message will actually go from the system also. Okay,
okay, sure, sure. So yeah,
cool,
yeah, okay, thank you.
cool, cool. So now again, I'm just gonna quickly do one thing. So again, I'm just gonna do one thing. I'm just gonna again submit a request, and now you will see here, this is a huge thing, a huge message comes out. Okay. So now let me just quickly go back here. Again, my message is completed. I'm just going to go into the trace mode. Okay. So now at this particular step, I know my message has failed. So now I'll go to the end part because through here only this will take an exit. I'll select the message content because at this specific step, I want to see a message content. So if you go here, you will see there are two lines. I think this is the first thing, okay, which is provided by exception.message. I am telling you, okay. And the second part is exception.stack trace. Okay, so again, when I just say stack trace, again, it's just giving you line by line details. Okay, what actually happened with the messages. Now, the good part is if you're going through this at below, you will might be see where it is talking about a specific line of issue also. Okay, it will just try to locate you, okay, where you have gone for a wrong, where you have gone for a toss. Don't expect that in all the cases it will be clear to you. Okay, in some cases, in some of the cases, it will be clear to you. So this is the predefined variable, which is your exception.message and your stack price. Okay, so these are the two variables. Now again, guys, there are different paths to the exceptions of process because this is basic. Okay, how to put your exception and get things routed or sending a mail adapter. That's one very common thing. Okay, now but I think the interesting question comes out now. You have this one process. In this process, you are doing multiple things. Okay, so I'm just trying to make a concept for going forward for the sessions also. Might be, think of a case that we are calling some kind of an external service while executing a message, which is a very common scenario. Okay, external service, might be there is some kind of a mapping error, might be there is some kind of a script error, or might be any kind of logical error in while configuration. Okay, so there can be different kind of issues. So now I think again this challenge just came to me also once, where for one of my clients, they say very clearly that Sam, I want that for a specific error I should be getting the right set of notification. I don't want that my admin to go all the message to admin and then he looks into it and say, okay, no, this is not my error as such. Okay, now I have different kind of your error type, and putting one simple normal exception sub process is not going to help me out. Okay, so now what I would think, because based on my experience, that was like early days. So what I thought, how can I actually tackle this particular challenge? So I quickly went to my artifact editor and then I just start looking into it. Okay, so now my first thought was, because I was playing with this particular tool very nicely. So what I did was I was looking for the option. So I thought, why not let me just try to put a router here, okay? And based on where it fails, I would save some kind of a variable or some kind of a logic that, okay, in case if this is a mapping error, I will pass 0 1. If it's a scripting error, I'll pass 2. If there's a web service error, I'll pass 0 3. Okay, so I just thought about it, and I thought I'll make a multiple routes out of it, and I'll call the adapters for sending the messages. Okay, so that was my first approach. Now, what happened is, because you just take everything for granted, no, okay, if this option is given, it will be supported. But in this case, what happened was there are a few things which was not supported. So now how I get enlightened, this is not going to work out. So I just again selected the component which I want to get more information about it. Again, I'll just click on help. So here you will get all the latest information about your exception subprocess. Okay. Now here, if you just look at, it says very clearly, for example, you can add a service call from the context menu of the connection, the pool, this enables you. The following elements are not supported within your exception subprocess. Okay, so if you look at, in this exception subprocess, I cannot use a router. Okay, there are multiple things. Start message, again, it does not make sense to use in your exception subprocess any kind of a start message. Nor even local integration process, nor integration process, or another exception subprocess. Okay, so these things are not supported. So anytime if you're using any kind of a component, okay, make sure that you come to this help page and read about it. Second important thing is, guys, don't take things for granted. Again, it happened with me twice. I was like very confident saying, okay, no, this feature is not supported. I come to this and I see, okay, what the hell? This feature is now SAP has enable, and now it actually works fine. So anytime if you are looking for some features which is critical, I would recommend that always look comes into the here and just make sure that okay, this feature is there or not, because every month there are changes. So that's how my this router function didn't work out. So I'll just tell you later when we'll have advanced sessions where I'll be talking about memory optimization and trips and techniques. So I have actually tried to split my complete iFlow, because that was a customer who was like very fixed. No, I want in that particular way. So I've actually decomposed this iFlow, done specific things in a specific places, and then I was able to take care of that particular exceptions of process. So this is how you can use even this exceptions of process. I think everyone people ask me, Sam, we don't agree that this message should go for your this message should not be completed. Okay. So one time what we did was I instead of again guys, because when you're teaching it out, you play around a lot on different parts. So I'm just teaching this course. So we thought, okay, what else we can do it here? So instead of end message, in the event, we have something called error end event. Okay, so we thought, why not let's pass through it, give a notification to the admin, and give me use this error end event as such. Okay, so what I did, I actually removed the end message. I went here, I clicked on error end event. I was able to place it here, and then I have connected this. I have saved this, and then I have deployed my iFlow. So it's just general thing. Like, what do you think? How it will work out? Will it work out? Will it not work out? Will there be an error message? What do you think? Any one of you?
Think it shows in the failed content, the, the
Okay.
failed messages.
Okay. And now let's say if it shows a failed message, fair enough point. So what we have this body, do you think I'll be able to receive this in the SOAP adapter? The same
Yes.
message?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
No. 1 second. Yes.
Okay. So you're saying if I have put an error end event in my exception sub process, I would be getting a failed message in CPI message monitoring, but in my SOAP, I would be able to get that message. Okay, let's see that particular part out. I think today's system is very slow. I'm not sure why it's taking so much of time to deploy it. Okay, come on, get it deployed. Okay, so now I think this is deployed. So now I think again, we're just testing it out with this scenario. Let me again enable a trace. Okay, trace is enabled. I'll just go to monitoring part, and I'm going to actually send a request on the same endpoint here. Let me submit this request. And guys, you will see we have an error messages. Okay. So guys, just do remember that part in case if in your exception handling or exceptions of process, if you just try to play around, it would not work out the way we expect. Okay. So now here in this particular case, we have put it the error end. Okay, logically what happens is at this point it should be actually terminating and coming out of your function module, let's say. Okay, so the end message is only the right thing which we should be doing it out, else it will just behave the same way. It's like you have error message in your exceptions the process, due to which I'm not going to get the desired response here. Okay, so please do remember that in case if you're using some kind of exception sub process, there should be some kind of a proper notification which should go to administrator so he can just come and quickly check it out. So again, I'll just try to write topics which we are going to discuss, because I don't want that we just say here again. I think in your scenarios, because again, so last when we come here, we'll just try to make sure that, okay, I think I have already a slide for this. So we'll just make sure that we cross everything here. Okay. So this is a slide I think which we'll be using for our open question as such. Let me just quickly go here. I think the first part is on the memory optimization in SAP CPI flows. The second, I think what we were discussing about is exception handling for different type of messages. So we'll just make sure that when we're closing this course, so all these answers are answered. Let me just come back again to this particular screen. Yep. So this is about your guys exception sub process. Don't worry about it in case, because there are the other topics also like your local integration process. I'll just try to give a reference of how this exception sub process works out in the case if you have a local integration process, how that overall works out. Okay. So guys, anyone has any kind of question in the exception sub process, or how it is done? Any kind of open thing here? Okay, perfect. So guys,
Just question, Sam. Sorry. Do we like? Can we exactly identify which step it's going for toss and send an email or message out, Sam?
guys,
Like
again, I
content
think
modifier.
no, yeah, guys, I think you just look at all the failed messages. Okay, so now if I'm just talking about this failed message, let me just go quickly to the trace part here. Okay, so you see wherever while going into that particular box, if it shows red, so this is the place where exactly it has gone for a toss.
Yeah, we can see it here, like in terms of sending out an email or SOAP UI response somewhere else. Like we can notify this content modifier 2 has an error or
Of
3 has an error.
course, of course. Array, guys, yeah, that everything is possible. I thought
Okay.
this is. Let me just go back, because now I know this is last sessions we have discussed. So guys, it's very easy. Okay, so now how to do that particular part, I can just quickly tell you out, because I don't want to mix it out with the other concepts. So that's the reason I didn't show. But next batch, I'll just make sure that I cover here only this mail adapter too. Okay, so now let's say if I have a mail adapter, there's mail. Okay, so now let's say I go on to the processing tab here, might be here the from to define. So in the mail body, you can use a simple language expression. Okay, so what I'll say is, hello admin, we have issue with iFlow, and you will say that how to determine that iFlow. If you're using this same iFlow, you can just you can directly put it out here, or you can just define somewhere iFlow name into a property variable. Let's say you can just create a variable name p message or iFlow name. Okay, and here just define as a constant. This is your iFlow name. I would save it some variable. Okay, and what I can do here is if I just go into my mail adapter into message body. Okay, here what I can do is I can just quickly put dollar flower bracket property dot. Okay, so I can actually get this name. Okay, so I'll say we have an issue with, let me just quickly go there. We have an issue with iFlow. Now might be you say whose order ID is. So now you might have stored somewhere the order ID of this particular iFlow. Okay, so what you can quickly do is you can just reference that also using a simple language expression. So I'm sure we have saved here in the, come on. So we have saved here in the header. We have seen the last time how to actually read an order number while and any message inputs into the system. So this is that particular name. So I can use all these things and I can just make sure that whenever I'm sending a message to my admin, everything is it's pretty much defined. Does it
Okay.
help you now? Are you
Yeah,
able to
thank
get
you.
it?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
relate it. iFlow
At which
name and all
step?
of it. Only question is like which there could be a multiple content modifier, multiple flows, right, in the inside of the iFlow. Where exactly going wrong? Like route 1 went wrong, or route 2 went wrong, or route 3 went wrong. Is that also possible, Sam?
Really, I don't understand that part. So now let's say if I just go to the monitoring here, okay, so it will definitely fail at one place only. Na? So now let's say in case if
Mm.
I just go here, so now let's say it will be failing at one place. It cannot fail at multiple place, na? Because once
Correct.
it's failed, it is going to stop it out. So from here only
A
you'll be able to
stopping
figure out,
point.
yeah, that at this particular place this has failed. What exactly
Yeah,
is the challenge?
yeah. Example. First we are making a call for ECC. Second, we are calling making the call for CRM, something like that. First call, between first call and second call, first call it's get failed basically. Is there any way we can tell, like first call when we are making a call from CPI to ECC, that particular place it got failed, something like that?
Yeah,
Like
again, I
which?
think no, you can just do this particular part, guys. Again, you can just do that particular part. You just have to define your variable smartly, as simple as that.
Okay,
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 might be
okay.
at each.
Understand.
I think now let's say if you just talk about this small iFlow. Now let's say if this is my some data point. We call it as DP1, DP2. Okay, might be you're assuming that between this and this it can fail, or these are like my two extreme points of iFlow. Between that, I can see there are chances it will fail. So you can define some variable, just see if it's set or not while sending a message. Okay. So there are different ways you can play
Okay,
around it.
understand. Setting the variable value, the same thing we can read, and we can throw the exception
Correct.
from there. Okay,
Correct,
okay,
correct, correct. I think one place we have done the similar part. We were setting a variable which steps it was passing it out, and there was 5 variables. So whenever the message goes to the admin, we were sure that if there are 5 steps, any 4 it would have failed because that's why the message was triggering it out. So if the message was filled till 2 or 3, then we know at what specific step it has failed. So it all depends how do you play around with the CPI system. Okay.
understand, Sam. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. So guys, this is like how your exception handling is done. Again, the advanced scenarios I would be talking about in the upcoming sessions. Okay. So that's one part. Let me just
Like,
quickly go.
Sam, I did not get it. Like, actually, the message was failed at content modifier 2. So, in that email, how can we just capture that value? Like that is failed at content modifier 2.
Okay. Let me just quickly go back here. See, what I'm just trying to say is, now let's say these are your 2 endpoints. Okay. Just go on mute. So now let's say these are your 2 points. Might be now again, okay. Now let's say these are your point like this point and this point, and you know that as a conservative between this and this it can fail. Or might be after this there is a call after this particular step you might be making a web service call. So what you can do is maybe you can just put a content modifier after this step. Okay. what you can do here is, might be you have made some kind of, let's say, call. I'm just telling you scenariously, just by scenario, we can take that scenario also, real time scenario. I don't have an issue. Okay, so at this part, so now let's say at this step you have called a web service, might be, and if at this step, what I'm going to do here is, in the content modifier, come on, let me just do a save. Okay, now it's saying not supported. Let me just refresh the tenant asset here. Let me click on edit. Just try to place it one more time. So now here, now let's say at this particular step, you have made a web service call. Okay, at this next step, what I'm going to do here is, I'm just going to read a variable and might be in a property, and I'll say read service. Okay, so I would actually set this variable as such. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is, in my content, in my exception sub process, now let's say if I have to send a message to my admin. So what I'm going to do here is, I would read all the variables at a different step. And in case if the value was set, then I can relate it out that my message or my iflow was executed at 2 or 3 points. Are you able to relate it out, or are you able to visualize it out? Lalit, like this was your specific question.
Yeah.
Are you able to? Okay. See, generally what happens is, people, what they do is, real-time scenario, they split your big chunk of piece into small local integration process. Okay, because it's modularized, it's easy to test. So there are different way to deal with that particular part. I'm just telling you one scenario again, that's like a workaround. Instead of doing, putting all your component to different block, initially testing it out, again there is an effort. Again, these are ways where you're making some important calls or some logic, and after that you just set a variable. And then while sending, if your iflow goes for the toss, you will read all the variables in your message. Wherever it is blank, then you know at this till here it was set, and after that it's failed. So might be this three have worked, and after the fourth would not have worked. Are you able to lay it out?
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I'll just do one thing. I'll just take this kind of scenario also, so that it will be more clear. So while building a practical scenario as such. Okay, cool. So this was one part on your exception sub process. Again, I'll come again to this particular same flow later when we're talking about a mail adapter. Now let me just quickly go back. Let me go here on to the ZX message. Let me go to the artifact. Okay, let me just quickly click on edit. So let me just go back to this first, my iFlow. Okay. Now there was a question. I think it was very interesting question that, Sam, I am executing my messages. Okay, or how to start. Let me just a little rewind back. What we discussed was that whenever we need to see what is the message payload or content, okay, while executing it out, what exactly is the way. I said you can go and just quickly click on trace. And that time we clicked on this view detail, and there was a message that this is tracing feature should be enabled only in test environments. Okay. And I think someone asked me, I think Muzib asked this question, that Sam, in case if this trace is to be enabled only in your development or a test system, what happens to the production system? So now let's say if my iFlow is there in the production system, there are 1,000 messages are executed. So how do I know in case what kind of message to what conditions my message has gone for a toss? Okay, I hope that was the question last time we discussed. So now let's say if we don't have tracing feature in your production system, what we can do. So to tackle that particular challenge, we have the concept of your groovy script. Okay, again, that's one way. So now we'll discuss about the groovy script today. Okay, so let me quickly discuss about this bit. So first of all, again, Groovy is your object-oriented scripting language for your Java platform. Again, which has a very easy to learn syntax as such. So we don't have any kind of a complexity in it. Now, how to actually see that part? So what I'm going to do here in this particular step, let me see what we have done it. Okay. Okay, cool. So let me just do one thing. Now, my use case is using Groovy script. I'm going to actually, I'm going to log that particular message at a specific step so that you don't have to actually enable a trace. Now, I'm sure theoretical part is okay, but how to actually play with that part? So to use a Groovy script in your iFlow, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to give this transformation part. Here we have a script and scripting. We have two types of scripting which is supported, Groovy or your Java part. I'm going to click on the Groovy bit. I'm just going to place it here. Okay, and then what I can just do is I'll just quickly go on to the Groovy script part. So again, we have some option in case if you want to assign it, if you want to copy it, if you want to paste it, delete it, if you want to add a next step to it. So all the things are possible. But now what I'm looking for is how to actually create a script. So if I go here onto the processing part, okay, so we have the option of a select. So select means in case if we have any kind of a local reference we want to upload from a file system, or in case if we have some kind of reference resources. When you see this word script collection, I hope you remember that in a package, when we go and create a new integration flow type, there is something called a script collection. So now they have created some kind of a reuse library so that once you define a script, and then you can actually use it at a multiple places. So now what I'm going to do here is, in my case, I want to create a new script. To create a new script, what you have to do, uh, okay, so to create a new script, so you have the option of create. So once you click on a create, what will happen is a editor will be opened for you with some line of syntax. Now I'm sure if you look at this syntax, I'm sure mostly people do it just do a control A and just delete it. Okay, logically it should not be the case, because yeah, if you're for the first time, just read it. Okay, so again they will just talk about what exactly is your method process data. It will just talk about standard SAP package which SAP is built on top of it. Then there are different kind of a message. I think mostly your getters and setters will be there. Now how to write this particular script and how this will actually work out. So we'll just again start with the basics. So we have 3 to 4 scenarios using a script. First is talking about only the script, or logging a payload. Then we'll talking about how to read your variables. Then we'll be talking about how to read structure. Then we have a scenario about how to read your list, because we have multiple scenarios to work with. Now what I'm going to do here is, first, just a few quick thing about this. So here in this particular editor, you don't have any kind of a compile check. Okay, so in case if you make any kind of changes, or if you just put a wrong syntax, if you just click on OK, that's it, that's done. Okay, so it's not going to check it out. Only while executing a messages you will get the error. I'm sure everyone will say, Sam, then this is not going to help you out. So don't worry about this thing. I'm just gonna make sure that you have all the references or what best can be done. So we have something called here. Okay. So I'll just talk about then this. Okay, I'll just talk about this editor again in the upcoming steps. So here I'll just do one thing first. I'll just put a message. So first you understand a script, and then I'll talk about other things. So I'm just gonna reuse whatever we can, and then what I'm gonna do is, Okay, so just give me a second, then I'll just write first syntax because I don't want to mix might be in case if it's creating confusion. So let me just do one thing. Let me just first write a syntax, and then I'll explain you step by step. So if there is an issue with my editor also these days. Okay, let me just first quickly click on. Okay, let me just click on save. Now let's go back again. Go here onto the script part. So again, very easy. From where we have located Groovy script, I'll just go to this transformation bar, script, and then we have a Groovy. So once you come here, we have this option of creating a Groovy script. So once you create, yeah,
So
script
it
is
is
here with
always
us.
groovy, or can we use the JavaScript?
Please go ahead and use the Java. Anything which is
Okay.
comfortable to you. I think
Okay.
the only challenge I see is when on top of methods you're writing on a framework, sometimes don't expect the standard things to work out that smooth. And I
Okay.
had a challenge, so I see. I think Ruby is a better option as such for me.
Got it.
Okay, so now I'll just do one thing, guys. I'll just go through these steps line by line. Sorry. So now I'll just do one thing. I'll just go through this script line by line and just tell you the pros and cons and how we're going to take this particular forward. So now the first two lines belongs, I think it's again your import statement, which refers to the package and classes within a package to make them accessible within your Groovy script. So here, if you see, we are using a message class, which is residing in your com.sp.gateway.ip.core.customdev.util, which is line number one. Again, this is your SAP's package which they have on top of this particular framework. Okay, this is purely part of your cloud integration framework. Then again, line number two gives us access to your hash map class located in the standard java.util package. This class is used to store elements and to easily make them accessible through keys. Currently, we don't need hash map in our example. So yeah, in case you want to just left out this line, you can just do that particular part. Okay. However, in case if you're talking about the message class is very, very important, the line number 1, because it has your get headers, get properties, everything. Okay. So yeah, you can just keep both the lines. I think this is a standard. Mostly when you look at practical example, whatever the different import statements are required, I think they just keep, there are like 13 to 14 important lines we have it. Again, packages based on a complexity, on a very high complexity, they just import here. Okay, that's just a kind of a reference here. Now I'll go to line number 4. So line number 4 define a message that would be called by SAP CPI framework during the runtime. Okay, the definition of variables and methods always starts with the keyword def. Here, if you just look at, if I have defined the message, a method process data, or if I have defined here the local variable body. So these are defined using the keyword def as such. So again, it's by framework, just make sure that you have this method name available, which is the process data, because now whenever we are sending a message inside this process data, if you just look at, I think there is inbound input to that particular method, which is a message, which is actually hitting it out. And there is a return type also defined, which is a message, because definitely after processing, we have to return the message. So that's why we have this message here. It's reading an object of message, okay, in this method, and the return type. Okay, so now we have seen the import statement, why it's required, how to define your variable your method or variable using a def keyword, and this is a method we need process data as such. Okay, so now what we have is, now I'll go quickly on to the line number 5 and 6. So your line 5, which is def body is equals to message dot get body. Again, this is a very standard part, okay, because line 5 retrieves the part of body containing the message payload from the message object, okay, and it's stored in the variable body as a string. Now I'll move on to the line number 6. So line number 6 gives us an access to a message logger object. I am sure in case there are different methods which are supported here in the CPI, but the problem here is to just don't assume that you will just have this autocomplete and you will be able to see it out here. Initially, I have struggled. I think still I'm struggling on that particular part. Yeah, somewhere if you see in some kind of documentation, and then only you can actually use it out and pull it out. Okay. So line 6 again give us your message logger object. So CPI environment provide a global accessible factory called a message logger factory, which returns a message logger object through get message log method. Again, when we're just talking about get message log, again this is used as a camel case. First letter is small and going forward to your uppercase. Okay, so once we have retrieved the message logger uh, class and verify the successful access by clicking or checking, sorry, by checking the object against the null value, which indicate a fail operation in line 7. So now what we are going to check, what we are going to see, we are going to first get the value in your message log using this method, get message log. And in line number 7, I'll just check again in case if it's not equals to none. What I'm going to do is I am going to go on the line number 8 and I'm going to use a method which is add attachment as a string. Okay, again, this is a standard predefined method. What it's going to do is it's just going to attach that particular message what we have seen. Okay, so now if you're talking about this method, which is your add attachment as a string, so again, it has some parameters which will, there are 3 parameters to it. What is the name, what you want to pass, and what is the type of message you want to pass it out here. So in this particular case, I have chosen as a text in plain. It'll come out of it, it's a return message. So this is one of the most commonest script, okay, one of the most common thing. Like any iflow, if in the production you will see if there are chances that this can go for a toss, so this is one of the common scripts they're going to use it out. So I'll just click on okay. Okay, first, any question as such, or let me, if you want, I can just repeat it again, guys. Or if there is any question you ask me.
Can you please repeat one more time?
Yeah, sure, I can do that particular part. So guys, first thing is important that we have to import the statement, I think related to the SAP packages. Okay, I think the first one is critical because it has your message class and other parts. So make sure that you have necessary import statement available. Line number 4 is all about defining your method, which is like you have to define using you have to define this name only process data. Make sure that. Again, when you're defining a method or a variable, you have to use a keyword called def. So in line number 4, if you see while defining a method process data, we have in that particular method, we are taking input the message object only, and the return of this method is also a message. Line number 5, we are just reading the complete body of the message, okay, in the variable body. Then in the next part, what I'm just doing is I'm using a message log factory. I'm again using this is a standard method. I'm using a method called get message log, reading it out and setting into this variable message log. Next line, I check in case if there is a value or not. In case if there is a value, then only I'll just go in the line number 8. In case I want to show the message, okay, in the logging part, I'll show you how this particular look like also. Okay, so here whatever we have read in message log, I am going to write back the current payload using this add attachment as a string. So again, there are 3 parameters to it. For this method, which talks about the first, you have to define the text. Second, what you want to pass it out, and the third part is in what format. Okay, and then I'm just going to return the message. That's it. Does it help you? Any question, confusion? Okay, so let's do one thing
Sam,
now in this particular.
Sam, one question. This import statement, it might be using some class or method. Can
Definitely.
we see where this is coming from, or what is the structure?
No,
Like
no,
if
no.
we want to define, our, I mean, any new method, where to find it?
So you want to define a custom method, or you want to use
No,
something
no,
standard
even
predefined?
some standard only. Apart from these two, maybe some other standard I want to use it. So where to find like what I need to write after import?
Okay, so now let's say in case if you want to use something like for your date time and
Mhm.
and that kind of a stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe.
Okay. So I'll just do one thing for that also. I think the session is planned, so I'll just talk about what are the common scenarios and what are the different kind of import statements. I'll just give you a list of there are 15 to 16. I have it. If imported might be now, let's say if you want to directly read a XML message in your payload. Okay, when I said XML payload, what was exactly hitting into the script, and I want to use XML. Might be I want to parse that XML. So what are the different kind of import statements? So I have that session. Will explain you. Okay, but it will be good in case if you have anything very specific usage, then let me know. Then I can just check and come back to you. Okay.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Yes, Sam, where do we get the information of all the libraries available, Java libraries?
Okay, so when you're just talking about a Java, I think something which we need to see out from Apache Camel also, because again, underlying the framework is Apache Camel. In case again, that would not be very helpful as per my experience. I think what I just do is I just try to look in onto SAP CPI documentation and get the necessary information.
Okay, so we find it on the CPI documentation.
Correct. There are few, not everything, but they are mostly based on our usage. You will get the information on that particular part. Okay.
Okay.
Let me just show you that bit also. Okay, where are the question part? I'll just track all these questions so that we don't lose the context. Okay. Import statement. Cool. Let me just quickly go back again. Okay. So now, guys, again, maybe just talking about all these things. Yeah, it's not that readily available again, but I think the good part is knowledge. In case you want to look at what things we have in the Groovy script, quickly click on this help. I think it will just point you out to this particular page, and then you can just look at what if there are any kind of a specific use case related or how they have done it. Yeah, you can just come to this particular page. So this will be I think one stop place where you can get the information. If you're good with the Java part, yeah, you can use it. But if you are using a Groovy script, I would recommend you just come here, look at the standard, what they have used to achieve the desired outputs, and use that part specifically. Okay. Now, why I'm saying you first of all, okay, guys, don't assume that Groovy script, what SAP has given it, it's some sort of full-fledged feature. And I think SAP is also correct because this is an integration tool. You cannot expect some kind of editor. Again, the Groovy scripting is what we have in CPI is very lean, okay, because you don't have any kind of a compiler, editor, whatever the code you have written, that's it, okay, and then you just test it out. Sometime it can go for a toss. We'll show you how the error message also look like. Let me first do a save. Let me just try to explain this particular scenario. Then I'll show you what are the different ways or tools available to you that we can actually utilize it out.
Sam, just one question in the Groovy script. If any syntax error or anything, it will show in the script editor itself, or when we are deploying that time, we'll know, Sam.
You will
Any
not know
syntax
any
error.
kind. No, you will not
Okay.
be able to know any kind of syntax error. Once it
Okay.
goes for a toss, then only you will see that part.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think I have clicked on deploy. Let me just make sure. Let's just wait for it to see if it's once it's deployed. Anytime, guys, in case if you don't need things, okay, make sure now this is the one which we don't need it. Always undeploy it out. I think this is the one. I think I have got an endpoint with me. Let me just quickly click on trace, and yeah. Now, guys, anyone can tell me what script we have written, how it will work out, or how do you foresee after putting the script, what will be the new change? Any one of you?
We are going to have um, the information as an attachment. That means in these we
Log,
can
there will be
monitor.
an attachment.
Yeah.
Perfect, guys. I think, yeah, definitely. I think we have now a mixed set of experience. So yes, I think this is how it will work out. So now I think we have already this message up and running. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly click on trace. I'll just go to the monitoring part. And what I'm going to do here is from my SOAP tool, I'm going to submit a request. Now let me send some simulator request from the SOAP tool. Okay. Now I'll just quickly click on refresh. No service was found. Okay, sorry. I think I need to change my endpoint. So let me just quickly go here. I'll just quickly copy this endpoint. I think this was my last endpoint for another service. So now I've given a right endpoint. I'll just quickly click on submit. I'll go to the monitor part here. Okay. So now you see this has got generated. Now, one thing which I want to talk about is now last time when you see our previous iFlows, you will not you used to see the 4 tabs: status, properties, logs, and your artifact details. What you will see in this particular case is if you see where we have attached that particular body. Okay, so here there will be a new tab enabled which is called attachment. So if you just look at here, so this is the name we have given for our name, the type, And the beauty which I'm like bit surprised is any kind of payload you write, the size will be only a 1 KB. I'm not sure how they have done it. So this is always like I'm intrigued that whatever the message you save, that will be mostly like a 1 KB only. I haven't seen more than 1 KB as such. So this is a good part. So now if I just click onto the log current payload, so what will happen is you will be able to see at that specific step what was my message payload or message content. Okay, so this is an advantage of logging. So now think of a case, now you are into your production system. So now let's say in this particular case, if I am into the production system, sorry, navigate to the artifact editor. If you just click on directly to navigate artifact editor, again, you will have this flexibility to change. So now let's say I want this do, let me just look at this, which is the default route. Okay, this is the default route. So now let's say, now let's say I have a huge iFlow where are like 30 or 40 steps. I know there are points where it can break also. So now let's say if I have identified between these two steps or here till end, it can actually go for a toss. So what I can do is I can quickly put again one more groovy script. I'll just place it here. Okay, I'll click again on create. What I can do is I can just quickly just copy the script. Some people ask Sam why we cannot use the same script. We can use a particular script, but what happens is sometimes it's text, okay, at which specific step you want to call out very clearly. Let's say it's like after router content modifier, okay. So whenever you're defining your script for logging, okay, in that particular case, please make sure that when you use a method add attachment as a string, and when you have to define first parameter, you want to give a text. So make sure this name should be a proper one only. Okay, so I'll just click on OK, quickly click on save, and I'm just going to deploy this particular message. Let's wait for it to quickly deploy it out.
Regarding the groovy script which you written, the script is the whatever the data which is sent from the SOAP side, you are able to see the data in the XML format over there. So if the data is coming in a CSV format, the same code can be utilized over there, or to see what kind of data.
Guys, just remember this particular part. That's why I have highlighted out this in a bold. So your SAP CPI is payload agnostic. When we say payload agnostic, it can take any payload. But if you're using any kind of a payload palette options to process that particular message, you need to make sure that this is in your XML part. Okay. So if you have any kind of CSV message which is hitting into the CPI, make sure you first convert CSV to XML, and then you actually log that particular message. Okay. I hope that's clear to you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So now this is deployed. So now again, I'm just gonna quickly do one thing. I hope the trace is enabled. Yeah, I'll go to monitor message processing. From here, I'm gonna send my request again. Okay. So now if you again, I'll just refresh it. This is my latest message. If I go to attachment, so again at the two, now in case if my message has actually executed rightly, so it would definitely would have covered the steps. So now I can see at a step after your router content modifier, what was the payload? So this is the payload we have it, and might be at at initial step. So this was the payload. Okay, so this is one advantages of using your Groovy script to log a payload at a specific step in your iFlow. Let me just go. Oh, sorry. Okay, so now anyone, now let's in case if however the huge your iFlow is or however big your iFlow is, you just need to make sure that you need, if you want to capture a specific point, you can just use this predefined script, okay, for logging a payload at a specific step. And then after might be, let's say if in your production things goes per toss, might be you can go at a specific step and you can see till where this attachment has been generated. I think on based on that you will be able to take decision. My message has been hit till what points. Okay, so people give some kind of a sequence, 1 2 3 4, some give some specific naming. So I think it's up to you how you want to define that particular part. You can just easily download this information also. So this is how you can start. I think this is the most basic script in your Groovy script. Now guys, again we do have a different kind of scenario. I think we would be just taking mix scenario by scenario in our going forward sessions for your Groovy script. But I think one important part which I want to discuss is here is, as you have seen that if you have any kind of a messages, or now let's say in case if I make any kind of a changes. Now let's say if I go here at this step, let me, okay, or now let me just write this, because there is a return statement definitely is expected. If I quickly click on OK, save, let me just deploy it out. Let's just wait for it.
Sam,
I
just one
think based on,
question. Yeah, go ahead,
please go.
Yeah,
But I
question
think I
is
just
like,
want to say, okay, just one last thing which I want to include here, guys. Again, this tool is evolving. I have seen how this tool has been doing in last 3-4 years. Okay, so you would see definitely new things related to your message handling. In case you've already worked, might be you'll be able to relate it out better if someone has worked. But in case you have not worked, that's okay. But there are places now I've seen while deploying also now they have started raising a flag. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, man.
yeah, the question is like, we are putting the attachment maybe in multiple places in iFlow. Like, since this is an alternative to enable the trace in production, like whenever we want to enable this attachment, is there a possibility to disable also, since the production like 2 million or 3 million messages flowing in a daily basis? Like, is there any way we can disable also, Sam?
So in case if we have that kind of a message flowing it out, so definitely what you have to do is, yeah, you can actually remove that script, as simple as that. Okay, that's the only option you have. You have to remove the script. As such,
That
there is a no quick.
Okay, that will be again deployment, right? Like there is no
Again,
configuration as well.
no. Yeah, you need to make sure that particular bit. Yeah, again, I think there is a way, because we can call one iFlow to other iFlow. I have seen people are actually playing out with these things also. Again, I'll just talk about that part later. Okay, but now let's say if you have a two separate iFlows, and if you want to call one iFlow from other, what they're doing is, while capturing the important part, they route it through some other iFlow, only just to make sure if they want to switch it off, they can do that part. Again, that's one of the very rare case I've seen it. But to answer your question directly, yes, if you want to remove the scripts, you have to come to iFlow, remove the script, save and deploy again. As simple as that. Okay. But as I mentioned, if it's a cloud-based application, for me only the constraint was initially this size. And I'm a bit surprised. I don't know how they log it with 1 KB size. You also try it out.
I have
So
one
seeing
question.
a size 1 KB, this looks very small. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, maybe one suggestion
So,
here. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, one thing.
so
So
Just go one by one. I think just go one by
yeah, so
one.
if we have tight control in some clients, so like suppose if we are trying to do that, so we have to go we have to follow that first development, then quality, and then production, or directly we have to do in production only this groovy
Guys, again,
scripting.
I think it depends what kind of a landscape you are in. I have worked with Indian clients. I have worked with outside client. Okay. So the right process should be you should be first making a change into your dev and taking it forward. But if you have a production right, you can just quickly make a change into your production system and you can actually deploy it. So there are both ways. I think it all depends on what kind of processes your company follows.
yeah,
Hey Sam,
yeah,
this is
yes, Sam.
Sunil here. Is there?
One suggestion here. Yeah,
Okay, Shini,
sorry to
just go ahead.
interrupt. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. One suggestion here, Sam. Like this kind of situation I have faced. Okay, so
Mhm.
what we have done was like we have given one router with yes or no flag. It's a configurable flag where in the production it can be set to true or false. To traces and all. So yeah,
And
this is one
beautiful.
thing we
I
did.
think no, I
That
think
is
thank
what
you
my
so
question
much.
was. Yeah.
I think thank you so much. First of all, I think sharing your experience, what we have done, and again, I think that's a way of to look at things. Okay. Now, yes, I think what you have done is you might have defined somewhere locally and you have put in the router, and then it's like okay, if you want to show the message, route it through. So this is one way how you want to configure it out. Yeah, I think this is helpful to others. Thank you. Yeah, I think someone else was also asking a question.
That was the question I was going to ask Sam. There's Sunil here. That why can't we,
Okay.
flag something and then control it if required?
Guys, again, definitely it's all about your capability. That's why I always say initially first few, I think month, put on understanding each and every functionality, and then yeah, it's up to you how you configure it out. It's up to you, definitely. Okay, so now what I've done it in this particular case, my scripting has an error. There was a problem with the return statement keyword, and I still was able to deploy my iFlow. So now let's see how it works out. Let me quickly click on again trace. Let me quickly go onto the monitoring message processing. So like what do you think, guys? This will be error, this will be okay. Any one of you? Okay, let me just do one thing. Let me just submit this particular request. So definitely it should supposed to go in your error part, but again I think yeah, I think it will be a little easy for someone from development experience that okay, what kind of a message this is, but definitely you should not stop yourself. I think the easy part is we have a trace. I can just quickly go from here. Also, I can just validate okay, before the second logging, this is fail. And again, we have the beautiful feature of trace. Here you can actually look at which step it has gone for a toss. So I know this at this specific step it has gone for a toss. Again in the log, if you look at this is how it looked like. And guys, just frankly one thing, how many of you are able to relate it out? This was related to a return statement. Might be if you haven't seen it out. Any one of you thinks no, Sam, this was very straightforward, I can make it out.
Yeah, here it is mentioned in the first line at the end. Read to there is applicable for argument types in the first
Guys,
line.
again, I do see that particular part, but in case if we haven't developed this iFlow, or you might not have seen me developing it out, I'm not sure how many of you, because I was like most of the time whenever I'm reading error message of CPI, because I've given my idea suggestion also. You need to make it more readable, your messages. I'm telling you guys, last 4 or 5 years, I'm seeing this particular tool. Close to 2015, I'm seeing this tool. Initially, you cannot even log your message. There was a no feature only of this particular part. Only was you just try it out. If it works, it's correct, or you log, or the option was of your debug only. Okay, so I think this is improved, but again we have plus and minuses. I think the plus is that we can just quickly see at what specific steps, so we have to just focus on this steps to fix it out. So yeah, again, we don't have any way, guys, while writing your script to check or the syntax part. Now again, what happens is this was a problem with me also, because one of my cases or one of my projects where we had this payroll integration of success factor, so we were facing a lot of issues. Okay, so luckily I stumbled upon this site, which is your groovyid.com CPI. I would be talking about this particular screen little later in the stage, but now let's say in case we want to look at some kind of examples, because I don't want to stop you. Okay, I really want that, okay, everyone should learn. There are some kind of a basic examples also given here. Okay, so it's not something which I think we should definitely look into it. But just if you try to progress easily, I think that would help you out. So now here might be in going forward step, I'll talk about how, in case of how to actually, once we click here, how do we have the error message, what kind of control we have, and how do we actually test it out. So again, this will be one option. If you're writing a script and you want to make sure that whatever the syntax you put are correct, so here we can actually test it out. So which is your groovyid.com.cpi. I'll just take a note here. I'll put it. I'm not going to write something on Groovy script that is an object-oriented or syntax. Might well just put the text later stage. Okay. So guys, this was about your Groovy script. So we have few things again planned, some use cases for your Groovy script part. Okay, let me just go back. Let me go here. Okay, so I'll just do one thing, guys. I'll just give it a pause here. Okay, and might we will just meet tomorrow again. So what do we have planned for tomorrow? So again, we'll just try to look it onto the architecture part. There are again few more use cases for developing your I think indication flow using this different kind of your CPA palette. Okay, so let's connect again tomorrow for the same thing. Okay, so we'll just look at scenarios, and yeah, and if you can talk about even the architecture part, how does your SAP CPI architecture, what are the different kind of runtime nodes, only very specific, I think, which is just good to know, not everything, because end of the day, how does it works in a backend? I don't think so. It should concern us. The only good part is if you know what this TMN node is, how does your overall how do you get your virtualized service, when a message hits into CPI box, who is the first person, or who actually received the message. So that kind of things we would be talking about in your architecture part. Okay, yeah, guys, that's it. Thank you so much.